James, it's great to have you on the show. Of course, you are a longtime member of the band Kutless, been around for a long time, and of course, we're going to talk to you about what else has been happening with the band recently. The last time we talked with anyone in the Kutless camp, it was with Nick, so it's been quite a bit.
Yeah, Nick is rad. I'm glad you got to talk to him.
Yeah, he was always a lot of fun to talk to. He was a lot of fun to talk to, and it's funny when they said that they were like, "Oh, and you'll be talking to James." I'm like, "Well, that's cool." I was like, "I haven't talked to James before," and of course, then I had to go in and kind of look up my liner notes and everything. I'm like, "Okay, all right." That now I'm refreshed and everything. I'm like, "Oh, but Nick isn't in the band anymore. That's a little sad, but that's okay."
No, we've had a lot of changeover over the years, and fans that have been following us since the beginning have certainly noticed, I'm sure. But
yeah.
And it's all been good. Primarily, I think that this is a hard lifestyle to travel this hard and to be constantly tapped for creativity and just the logistical side of running a business that is a band. I think a lot of people feel like, hey, maybe it's time to move on and just be home or called on to different ministries. Our former drummer, Jeff Gilbert, is a speaker with some pro-life ministries, and he goes around, speaking about that, and Save the Storks is the organization he works with. And,
okay.
It's cool to see the various stages of life that the former dudes from Kutless are in, and what they're engaged in ministry-wise and with their families and stuff. But yeah, John Micah, our singer, and I are the two original members that are still rocking it. And we have 3 great band members that are totally awesome: Neil Cameron, Nate Parrish, and Drew Porter. And yeah, we've been touring a lot and kind of on break right now.
Very nice. Very nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk first off about the new record. I mean, it's not horribly new at this point, but the most recent one for y'all is the album Surrender. How do you think that this album overall fits into the landscape of the Kutless catalog? Because you guys have had a good bit of releases now. I mean, you guys have been around for what, I don't know, has it been 13 or 14 years now?
Yeah, about 16 years. Our music over the years has been pretty dynamic, as far as the range of the rock genre that we cover. We've had hard rock songs, and we've had more pop rock or worship type sounding songs and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a good question. Where do I see Surrender fitting into the catalog of Kutless releases over the years? This is our 9th album, actually, and we returned to recording with Aaron Sprinkle on this.
Nice.
Aaron Sprinkle is an incredible producer. He's produced all sorts of things over the years, but our first 4 albums were with Aaron. And it was just such a pleasure to go back to recording with him. And he and I are like kindred spirits. I've always kind of viewed him as my big brother, and we worked really well together on this record, often producing things together, the drums and the guitars and John Micah's vocals and stuff. So I got to be more hands-on and more involved in this process, even in songwriting, to be honest. I actually penned a lot of lyrics on this album too, which I hadn't done very much before in the past. But yeah, I think it fits in sonically really well. We try to balance what the sonic palette, I guess you could say, of any Kutless record is. However, I think that we're feeling called to certain aspects of outreach ministry, particularly in Eastern Europe and stuff, where hard rock tends to serve that crowd a little better. And so I think a lot of the new songs I'm currently writing for an upcoming album, which is to be determined at this point. But a lot of the songs I'm currently thinking of and writing are actually much heavier than Kutless has been in the past.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask this question that I know that may be a difficult one to answer. You had mentioned that you guys felt kind of a calling to ministry in Eastern Europe. Is that what you had said?
Yeah.
How did you guys come to that? I mean, did it just feel like something that God was speaking to you at, or was there some sort of inciting event? Because that seems, just to say it seems kind of random, but I'm sure that there's more to it than just the thing itself.
Sure. Yeah. I guess it did kind of sneak in there randomly within that answer, but for anyone who's been following us closely, they know it's not random. But in 2012, John Micah and I were praying about, honestly, we were soul searching. We have been a band for a long time at that point, and that was years ago. So now we're like ancient in band years. But, we had been a band for a long time, and we have been blessed with great success in our career. We have 2 gold records. We've sold like over 3 million albums, I think. And
wow.
We've been all over the world, and God has done all of that. A lot of these things I could never have imagined, but we were in 2012, we were kind of in this spiritual, personal space of like soul searching. And we were asking the Lord, like, what does it mean for us to have this type of platform, this big of a platform as a band? Because certainly we don't want it to be only about standing on stage night after night and getting cheered at by thousands of people. Because if that's our reason, then I need to stop and I need to just go home. So we were praying about this, like, Lord, thank you for this platform from which we can speak, from success, and we can be leaders, hopefully, to young people and our peers in other touring bands. What does this mean that you've given us this? And so we really felt this vision start to develop, from which we started a nonprofit organization, which is called End of the Age Ministries.
Okay.
We call it EOTA, the acronym. But End of the Age Ministries is from the Great Commission text of Matthew chapter 28, where Jesus says to his disciples right before his ascension, he says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit." And then he promises them, "I will be with you even to the end of the age," he says. And so I think that it's cool that there's that command imperative at the beginning, the go therefore. I think God wants to equip us with all the skills and tools we need, like this platform of being the band Kutless. And he wants us to be sent out, we feel called to that. So EOTA facilitates Kutless doing large-scale evangelical outreach concerts and tours entirely for free to the public. And that's what we want our touring to look like for the future. So we've been doing these outreach tours over in Ukraine primarily. We just did 11 cities in Ukraine. We also did Belarus, Czech Republic, Hungary, Austria, Switzerland. But Ukraine right now is going through an incredibly tough time. They're being invaded by Russia, and religious oppression has been a part of that culture and that region of the world for decades and decades. So a lot of these former Soviet countries are experiencing a time of revival right now, even though they're in really dire circumstances economically and at war. And so we've been it's an absolute honor to go over there and to celebrate Jesus with these people. And we play out in open public squares, in city centers. And we're getting crowds of like 10, 15, 25,000, 30,000 in one city. And we're seeing like 45% of the crowd raise their hands to make decisions to follow Christ every night as we get to preach the gospel and play these huge rock concerts and stuff. And so we're doing that entirely for free and partnering with the churches locally to help sustain discipleship thereafter with these new believers and stuff. And it's just been a really fruitful ministry. I mean, we saw probably 45,000 people come to Christ on this tour we just did a couple months ago. So it was a huge blessing, and that's really what we're after right now.
Wow. Man, that's incredible. I had no idea. Somehow I had missed that, which is my fault and not yours. But yeah, that's insane, man. That's craziness. And that's cool, though. That's cool.
If that's striking a chord with any listeners, please go to eotaministries.com and check out our story and check out how you can help, because you can help send us over there to keep doing ministry over there. And Czech Republic was a place that was hungry for Jesus too. 80% of the crowd got saved that night. It was overwhelming, just mind-blowing. So
wow.
Please join us in what we're doing. It's really cool.
Nice. Well, I want to go back to something that you had said when we were talking about the record as a whole, and you were talking about writing heavier songs for that seemed to register, I guess, a little bit better in that Eastern European area where you guys are centering a lot of ministry right now. That strikes me in a weird sort of way that brings up a question to me. I mean, I always think of you guys as you are a rock band, but I think at least during the middle part of your career, you guys kind of got to be known as a worship band that also played rock music somehow, which seems a little flipped from the way that you might have originally thought of Kutless being, because I think there were always worshipful songs in there. But
Mm-hmm.
with the success of the Strong Tower album, a lot of people got to that was like the jumping off point for a lot of people, is that, or their entry point, I guess I should say, was that
Well, I mean,
record.
it was both, really. It was an entry point and a jumping off point for. But I mean, we have created a very diverse fan base for people
Right.
who are still sticking with us. But certainly, from the first few records being more primarily hard rock, I think some people kind of jumped out at that point.
Right.
You know, all I can say is, over all the years, we've really tried to approach each record just like asking the Lord what He wants us to do.
Right.
And for a person like me, who is so focused on rock and roll and like heavy rock, there were times where I had to really work at setting aside the desires of my flesh and my ego, honestly, and my pride. I want to be like the hard rocker king in this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like deep down inside, that's what I want. When I'm talking about like me and my wants.
Right.
But what we need to do is be servants. At least our band feels that way. And the best way that we have been able to serve people is through being both of those things. We have always felt that worship is not and should not be defined as one sort of sound,
Right.
which the Christian industry has certainly made it into. I
Your
think
words,
that
not
there
mine.
are. Yeah, absolutely. No, I've been around long enough. I
Yeah.
can say what I want.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a shame, because honestly, like, it creates legalism. It creates missed opportunities to really reach out to some people, regardless of age, because it's a wide demographic. It really creates missed opportunities where people cannot connect with worship and cannot connect with maybe outreach Christianity or evangelical focused Christianity. In some of these countries we were going to, I mean, we were seeing, people walk up to the stage who were wearing like Marilyn Manson t-shirts and had like dark eye makeup and visible like cuts and scars all over their arms and stuff. And these are the people who are raising their hands to accept Jesus Christ, because they look up on stage and they hear a band that sounds like we do. They see a band that looks like we do, and we're from America, so they want to listen to us and stuff. And then we get to share the gospel in our rock show, and they see that it's genuine because we're just living out this message that we're saying.
Yeah.
And it's a freedom of that dispensation of grace. It's freedom to them, and that's what they want. Day in and day out, they want freedom. That's what they're fighting for against a world superpower right now. And we would be foolish to think that that's not the same in America, although more spiritually, metaphorically. We are fighting against spiritual powers. I mean, always. Ephesians talks about this in chapter 6. We battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities,
Mm-hmm.
The enemy wants to destroy any of those moments where you could reach out to a person like that. And so I think that we do a disservice when we say worship is only this,
Yeah.
Worship can only sound like this. It can only look like this. And it only happens in church, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, that is so foolish, So I don't know. I think that we have done our best to maintain that integrity as a band of just doing what we feel called to. And, some of our songs have sounded very CCM, and some of our songs have sounded very just unique and authentic, I think. And they all came from a place of, pouring out our hearts into this music. A lot of the songs are autobiographical in nature, as far as like some of the original worship songs we've done. For instance, the whole album Glory is basically a worship study about the book of Revelation.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's sort of a long, convoluted answer, but that's
okay.
how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. Like, what we've wanted to do the whole time is just touch people's lives who are viewed as untouchable, and we are, I would say, a unique band in the Christian market, in that you could put us on stage with opening for Skillet, or you could put us on stage opening for Casting Crowns, And I can't really think of another band that kind of fits that, you know?
Yeah.
We really want to create this openness for any kind of fan to come to these concerts. And that's what we've been seeing is happening when we do these awesome outreach events.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Well, before we get too far away from talking about the current music that you guys have, we've been spinning the single Mirror lately, and it's been doing well. Tell us a little about that. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Tell us about that song and kind of the meaning behind it from your perspective.
That's one of the songs that I wrote entirely, music and lyrics, actually with Nick Departie.
Nice.
It's kind of interesting. I'm a student in seminary college right now, getting a degree in biblical studies and theology. And at the time that I wrote the song Mirror, I was in a hermeneutics class, which is a big fancy word that basically means the study of biblical interpretation.
Okay.
So I was in a hermeneutics class, and we were outlining the book of James. And in James chapter 1, verse 23, James talks metaphorically about the Word of God being like a mirror. And when we go to it and look into it, we see our true reflection. And so that's why the song Mirror talks about things like, you know, putting on a disguise, but we go and look at this mirror and we see right through it, you know, or at least that God sees right through it. And so the mirror that is talked about in the book of James, you know, it reveals to us those flaws. Like if a person, you know, has dirt all over their face and they go and look in the mirror, they have the opportunity to then wash it off. Or they can walk away and act like they don't care. And that's what the Word of God is like. Like it reveals to us those things which we should come to the Lord and wash away. And I think that that's a beautiful moment when you realize His graciousness and His mercy in that. So I actually woke up literally straight from a dream where that song was like in my head, finished in the dream.
Oh, wow.
And I woke up with the words and the melody like stuck in my head, and I was heading over to Nick's house that day anyway to like have a writing appointment together. So I showed up and I was like, dude, I woke up with this song stuck in my head and we should work on it. So we knocked it out, and I love how it turned out.
Very cool. Very cool. That's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Now, we're getting close to Christmas time, and I know that you guys have a Christmas album. Do you guys ever have good opportunities, I guess, to play those live? Or do you guys tend to do that?
Sure. Yeah, sure. There's been a few years where we actually went on like a Christmas songs tour.
Okay.
It's funny because those songs we basically have to relearn every year whenever we go play them, because, you know, obviously the other songs we're playing all year round, and although the set list gets mixed up here and there throughout the year, like, you know, we spend a lot more time with those songs. But every year around Christmas time, whenever we play some of our Christmas songs, it's like, oh, nuts. I totally do not remember that riff I played, or like, I need to just sit and listen to this and play along again. So, yeah. But, you know, I think that's been fun to record those songs too. It is weird though, because often you have to record in like July in order to get those songs out in time, and it's hard to facilitate a very Christmassy vibe in July.
Yes, I totally understand. It's hard for me to get a Christmassy vibe now, and there's already a couple of houses near here that have Christmas lights up already. The mall's already putting up giant Christmas
Let's talk
flakes.
about that for a second. Where do you land on that? I'm a firm believer in like, hey, let's do Thanksgiving first, then Christmas can start.
Yes. I mean, for me, I would be totally okay with waiting to decorate until the beginning of December, but my wife disagrees with me on it. Yeah, and working in radio, you have this inane ability to learn to hate Christmas music on about December 5th. Because you've already heard it so much, you know, over the course of how much you're, you know, because other people, you know, they walk in and out of stores, you know, they turn on and off the radio. But I think pretty much starting the beginning,
24 hours a day for you.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Even if it's not all like, even if they're not all Christmas songs for the entire set list for the show or whatever, they'll still be sprinkled in. And I'm just going, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Yep.
And even worse, I used to work in retail, so in an Old Navy, no less, and we got stuck with a Christmas CD that was the only thing we were allowed to play because when they sent us the one that was supposed to play in January, it was cracked. So we ended up hearing like Mariah Carey remix Christmas songs on into early February, and it was quite possibly the most horrifying thing ever.
Wow. I'm proud of you that you got through that.
So am I. But you know that's life. That's life. I mean, that's a first world problem if there ever was one. But still, it was not fun in the moment.
For sure.
So now you guys are working on some new music. I'm sure there will be some tours coming up in the new years and whatnot. But anything else the specifics that you want to share with us towards the upcoming events of Kutless World?
Running this nonprofit organization now, when we're trying to organize and administrate the EOTA touring for the upcoming year, there's a lot that goes into that, mainly because we're talking about foreign countries and interfacing with their governments and stuff,
right,
and the travel involved in that. For instance, one of the countries we went to on this most recent tour was Belarus, and we will possibly return there next year, which we're kind of working on developing that right now. But Belarus is still a communist nation, and their government does not allow public evangelism. So when we were there, we were actually invited by the government to come do this performance. Yeah, but we were told, like, you can't say Jesus, you can't say God, you can't say faith, you can't say prayer, you can't talk about the Bible, you can't talk about this, hope, blah, blah, blah. And so, but they're like, but you can sing any of your songs. That's fine. All of your songs are fine. You can sing whatever you want. So in that regard, we're just trying to, like, be good stewards of that relationship and that opportunity, because I think things are changing there. For instance, this upcoming year, they're going to start printing the Bible in their native language again, which hasn't happened for a long, long time. So I think doors are opening where evangelism is actually making a difference in that country, and we just feel honored to be a part of that. So interfacing with different governments and stuff is kind of, you know, it's not tricky necessarily. It's just that there's a lot that goes into that because we're so used to an American mindset, and that is not the way that they view things. So we're just trying to do good with that and be just, you know, be good representatives of the gospel as we communicate with these people, and look forward to those opportunities. So that's really what we're working on now, and possibly some touring here in the U.S. in spring. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. We're trying to keep up with communicating with our fans on social media and all that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Cool.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask you one last question. This is the final one, and I will even give you the complete and total option to either not say anything or have me delete the question altogether, but I have to say something. I have to ask. I was digging through your Wikipedia page, mainly just to be like, how long has Nick been gone? I mean, that was the main thing I was trying to figure out. And as I'm scanning through stuff, it's kind of showing stuff like in the mid-2000s, like 2006, 2007-ish. And something caught my eye that I did not know about before. It said, and I quote, consumers who purchased the new Xbox game The Apprentice featuring Donald Trump will receive a copy of Kutless's new video for Shut Me Out. I had no idea that was ever a thing. And of course, given the fact that we're recording this the day before Election Day, it just struck me as funny, if nothing else. Of course, I don't think anything less of you guys for that, or better either way because of that. I just thought it was something funny. So did you remember that?
You know, when you bring it up, yes, I do remember that. The thing is, like, throughout the years, the marketing team for our record label has done so many diverse and creative things to try and partner our music with other forms of media that consumers are getting. So there's been a whole lot of things that I'm probably not even really aware of.
Right.
We have like stipulations in our contract of things that we don't want them to pair us with, but other than that, we just kind of, there's so much of it that we just don't like really realize it sometimes. Yeah. But I do remember that Rock Band, the video game, we were on that too. Like some other things like that. But you know, we actually met Mr. Trump.
Really?
Probably 2 years ago. Yeah. We met him probably 2 years ago. We were invited to play at this convention in New Orleans, and we met him. And he told us, I've heard your stuff before, real talent, and shook our hands, and he was very kind to us.
Well, that's nice.
And it was kind of a trippy thing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Like
right. That's
we,
right.
we were told, you know, we were back in our green room and we were told like, hey, Donald Trump is about to arrive and he wants to meet you guys and say hi. And we were like, what? For real? And so we were just sitting there waiting for the Donald to arrive, and lo and behold, there it came. So yeah.
Life ends
Yep.
up leading you into some weird places, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's super, like, doing what we do is so strange. And yet I come home and, like, I'm totally the bus stop dad. Like, I'm there hanging out with the other parents, chatting it up, give my son a hug and send him on the bus. And, you know, and then we're talking about, like, oh, cool, you guys got new carpeting in your house? That's so awesome. Like, that's totally normal to me. Yeah. And in the off time, I actually worked for a coffee company in the roasting warehouse, and we roast like 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of coffee a week. So like there's this whole other side of my life that is just like rooted in everyday normalcy, and then other things like that where I'm at a convention and someone says, yeah, Donald Trump wants to come in and meet you guys. It's just very strange. So yeah.
Yeah, it's odd to marry those things together in any sort of realistic way because it just seems weird. Like way back in the day, the first time when Hillary was running, I was working at a top 40 station, and I got word from my boss that because I was the only live DJ in town at that hour, it was a night show, that Bill Clinton was going to call in and do an interview with me. And I just said, say what? He goes, yeah, he's going to be calling from a plane. Pretty much he's going to do most of the talking. You're just going to kind of get him started. That's really going to be about the most that you'll have to do. But yeah, technically he's going to be on your show. And I'm just like, that is so weird. And so like, that's one of those weird things that comes out in conversations like that where people are like, you know what? I had this weird experience. I'm like, yeah, this is the only good one I got. But anyway, you know, I can say I did it, but it's still kind of strange. But you know, life goes on. Life goes on.
Life is weird sometimes.
Yeah, for sure, man.